Everybody, good evening. Welcome, Sunday Red members. If you can do me a favor, if you can let me know that you can hear, see us, etc., that would be awesome. I haven't gone live in here for a while. I definitely haven't gone live with with a guest on the show. So, what I'd love for you to do is, as you tune in, let me know that you're here. Say hi. We are using a little bit of software to do this. So I'd love to know if I could see the chat, what I can see going on. So let me just go see. I can see us in the group. Okay, we are there. That's awesome. That's kind of the the thing that I want to know that we can do. So that's great. So yeah, guys, as you get in, let me know that you're here. Say hi. And as you tune in, before I give James a proper introduction, as you tune in, lots of you know that we're here to discuss, we'll call it mindset, we'll call it getting in our own way of shooting better scores this year. What do you answer this question for me, guys? What do you feel is your biggest challenge right now when it comes to your mindset, to your headspace, to getting out on the course and doing that? Let me know. Just put them in the chat and let me know. And James, we'll give everybody just a minute or two to join live. I know it gives everybody a little notification. Sure. And while they do that, James, why don't you give us a little intro to who James is, apart from just being an outstanding golfer by the sounds of it. Give us a little intro to your background, where you're at and where you're at to now.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Chris. So yeah, James Sinclair. I'm one of the founders of the Golf Guru app, and really excited to talk to you guys about that, about why we created the app, what it's going to help you to do if you are up for checking it out, and we'd obviously love you to do that. And yeah, the real journey for me in golf into this side of the game was at university. I studied sport and performance psychology, while also playing a lot of competitive golf. But I've certainly had my dark days on the course in the past, and that really sent me down a path of self-discovery, really trying to figure out more about this game. And through my own struggles, getting the yips in my mid 20s. I mean, how crazy is that?
Wait, are we talking putting? Yeah, just couldn't stand.
Yeah, I got. Yeah, it was linked to other things, but I think at the time, obviously, that was awful. But it's something I had to go through, and it's taught me so much that I'm very pleased to have come out the other side of it now. And it really created a situation where I wasn't even really wanting to play golf. I gave up the game for a couple of years, and I think really the reason why me and Andy, my co-founder, created the Golf Guru app is fundamentally to try and make sure that no other golfer ends up in that position where they would be willing to stop playing the game, put the clubs away for good because they can't handle it mentally. And everything, that's obviously one end of the spectrum, but everyone struggles to some extent with something mentally. It's holding them back from shooting the scores that they want, playing off the handicap that they know that they can. And that's my motivation, really, is to help golfers to get out of their own way, have more of those good days on the golf course. And it's so doable. So that's what we're going to talk about.
Awesome. I love it. I'm going to dive back into your story in just a minute. But before we do that, I can see Stephen's here. Hi, Stephen. I can see Matt's here. Hi, Matt. Stephen already says biggest struggle is hitting a shot after a bad shot, getting head in the right place, not thinking, will I hit another bad shot? I'm sure we can all relate to that. I already had some of my own things lined up as well. And that was things like some of the biggest things that I know I struggle with. I'm terrible. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. My weakest point is often off the tee, and I know that's where I get my own headspace is off the tee. I went through a period of just not being able to get off the tee properly, and just have never fully got back from that. And it's the classic: you have a great hole, and then I never go, oh yeah, I birdied a hole, double bogey the next. Just being able to put consistently good golf together. Normally, if I go double bogey, I'm very capable of hitting another double bogey straight afterwards. It's not like I go the opposite way and recover with a par on the next hole. So my bad golf tends to, it kind of accumulates and gets even worse and gets even worse and gets even worse until you're like, yeah, I'm not enjoying today. So
anyway, we one of the things that Andy and I, again, Andy's the guy that I set golf grew up with. We did a test. We did a study very, very early on. With a range of golfers, like a bunch of different handicaps, and it was consistent across the board that people were losing, a lot of shots because of their mindset. It's pretty rare to find a golfer who's not, their mindset is never negatively affecting them. It's always working in their favor, and the ways in which that happens, they vary massively from each individual, but there are some consistent themes in there. But from doing that research, the average that we found was 6 shots. But if if for you, you're making a birdie and then doubling the next, and that's a consistent theme, then yeah, there's a lot of shots being wasted there. So finding the ways to stop that, it can often be quite difficult identifying exactly what it is, what's the root cause of that. But in general, the way that we like to approach it is there's no one size fits all of what's going to work on the mental game. But if you can start to break the game down a little bit, you can work out these areas where you can become a little bit mentally stronger. You can become a bit more focused, a bit more calm. And if you start to work on those different areas of the game, the impact that can have is massive. You start to save those 6 shots on average. But honestly, a lot of the people listening to this, like, you might actually sit back and think, it's probably more than 6 shots that I'm losing. Because to take that specific question, about struggling to follow a really bad shot with something that sort of salvages your hole, or it's just just good. I mean, that is a very, very common theme. And it can really, really affect people to the point where they're throwing in the towel properly when they're playing golf, basically.
I've seen it. I've seen it. We used to have a podcast, and he won't mind me mentioning this. Ben Fowlis, getting better at his golf, but he was notorious for giving himself timeouts because he was like, nope, I'm absolutely done. Walking off on the 9th, and I was just like, yeah, that's a tough place to be, and that's just not going to be there. So before we go on, I want to just come back to you a little bit. So you're obviously a very good golfer, +3 golfer. So obviously know how to hit the ball. Getting the yips, like, I don't want to take you back to that dark pack. Well, I kind of do a little bit.
I want to go there.
So tell me about the yips. What, like, obviously is a very good golfer. You're standing over it, you just can't hit the putt. Like, what does it feel like? What does that moment feel like?
Yeah, I'd played a lot after school through university, played to a good standard. And then around the time I actually went to work in the music industry for a bit. That was my kind of other thing growing up. And in doing that, I didn't have a lot of time to play golf. Played a lot. I didn't. Oh, sorry, got a weird. Okay. Didn't have a lot of time to play golf. And my game just wasn't there in the same way. And I think the expectations were way too high. And for whatever reason, putting was the strongest part of my game. I think maybe the fact that it was the reason that therefore it ended up being I couldn't confidently say I was going to hit the hole from 2 feet away. And there was just so much pressure on myself. It was toxic. And I think other struggles that were going on in my life, personal things, they would come out on the golf course. And having talked to a lot of people, that is a very common theme. It can be the game can be quite a big window into what is going on in your day-to-day life. And that's essentially what happened for me. I went through that for a couple of years at least. Honestly, got to a point I was like, I'm done with this. Like, I love this game, but I cannot figure this one out. And I was like, I'm just going to play tennis. I mean, how awful is that? Because this game is the best, and I'm sure all the people listening to this, like, we love it. And those times when it gives you, something, right? It's almost hard to put into words at times. You want more of those, and I figured out that you can have them. So I'm back to a place where putting is it's the strongest part of my game again. And I'm so grateful that I went through that and figured it out.
For sure. And I hear Again, I see it. You see it again often with like people who go all in very early on, and we're golf has a habit of you as soon as you hit that first good shot, and you're like, I'm in for life. This is what I'm going to do. This is my thing.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you see them people go through that. You get better, 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 and then you just all of a sudden plummet, or you have a bad round, and you
yeah.
can't get out of it, and people
Peaks
leave the
and
game.
troughs become more extreme, and then suddenly you find that you're having more of those bad rounds, and it puts more pressure on you when you do have a good round going. Can I finish this off? You know,
that is that is definitely another one. And
the two really common ones, starting strong. Lots of people first six holes can just be absolute torture. Then they get out of their own way and they play great, and they go, "Oh my god, if only those first six holes hadn't happened like that." Because they can see the potential in the remaining 12 holes.
yeah,
Or it's the 15, 16, 17, 18, and let's say one of those holes is like a SI 1 or 2, or it's one of the hardest holes, and you're a few under your handicap, and you're thinking, fuck. Basically,
I'm on
even
for
if
my
you
best round.
very, very sort of vividly, there'll be something going on but as I said, there are so many things that you can do, that you can learn. It's all about this nice blend of being calm, focused, and confident,
I
and
love
not
it.
perfectly so, just more so, more often.
I love it, and I think that's lots of people can relate to. You say, I can see here. Matt says, if someone says you're playing well, I'm guaranteed to balls it
Mm.
up, and we joke, but in our group, if someone like having a bit of a competition, it's at a big day, and someone's like cruising, you'd be like, dude, you're playing really well, knowing full well that the next few holes they're just
Oh,
going to.
it's going to pull you out, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, I know a guy who does that. He's obsessed with getting his handicap down into. He has got to single figures, to be fair, but he does that a lot to me if I have a low score going. And I'll admit, it's a struggle. I'll probably throw in maybe a bogey or two in the. I remember hearing actually from a very, very, very top player, um, one of the best amateurs in the country, how she would scramble her brain. It's quite a weird one, but it could be something that's worth trying. On the first tee, she'd tell herself that she was 2 under. The next tee, she'd tell herself she was 5 over. The third hole, she'd tell herself she was four up. You see what I mean? And just keep changing it to the point where she just distract herself, have no idea what score she's on. And if someone says to you, "Do you know what score you're on?" You go, "I've got no idea." And also, I don't want to know. But also, the other thing I like to do is deflect it and just try to get them talking about their score, particularly if they're not playing well. It's quite a fun one to do. So, but
Well,
it's
and that
that's where
talk,
you've
talk,
got to really double down on your pre-shot routine. You've got to
mm,
have a trigger for getting you into that pre-shot routine. You've got to know what that routine is trying to achieve as well for your headspace as you're standing over the ball. Because there's no point in doing a pre-shot routine if you actually get over the ball and you go, "Oh crap."
what am I doing?
There's no point. So there are lots of things that you can do, but that is 100%, that's a tough one.
Okay, so we're going to come back. I want to come back to the all the tips that we're going to be going through today, and I can see John's here as well. John says, "I don't play enough golf to worry about hitting a bad shot. Just happy to be out on the course." John, that's probably a very very good mindset to have. That would probably do. In fact, John, you're the one that's being a bandit right now, I believe, right? And that would not surprise me if that's the case. But it's funny you mentioned that about not knowing what your score is, because we totally do that. We're like, who's scoring this round? And no one wants to do it because no one wants to know what they're scoring. Um, but the feel good feeling of the PGA Championship this weekend was Michael Block. And I thought a big, very, very interesting from a psychology point of view. Whenever he was being interviewed, they're like, dude, do you know how much money you're about to make? And he's like, nope, I don't care. I don't want to know. 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 Because
Yeah,
he doesn't want to add that level of pressure onto his weekend and
yeah,
cause himself to just completely mess it up.
exactly. He talked about being present so much, and um, again, some people listening might go like, "What does that really mean?" Like, surely I am present, like I'm there, I'm on the golf course, but your mind can very, very quickly, whether you're playing the PGA Championship or your monthly medal, get pulled ahead into these sort of pictures or almost like feelings at times. of what's going to happen in the future. It could be excitement because you're playing really well. It could be like, oh shit, like there's a hole coming up that I really hate or whatever. Or the opposite, you start reflecting on the past, but if you're fully in the present moment, none of that comes in. And that's what he was trying to do. He knows that by thinking like about a huge check, for example, that's probably not going to help him get out of his own way, stay out of his own way, and
Yep.
just keep hitting good golf shots, just keep stacking good shot on top of good shot. Someone taught, like, I think he even mentioned, didn't he, before that crazy up and down that he made on the last, he said, I had no idea where I was, and he didn't know he had to get that up and down. And I think even in admitting that, he knew that it would have been much harder for him to, pull off that crazy pitch shot and then box the putt. If he'd known what it meant, both in terms of financially, because I bet there was quite a lot of cash riding on that putt, but
For
also
sure.
the getting back into the PGA next year. Albeit it seems like he's got a full tour card from all the things he's now getting invited to. So
Sponsor invites.
yeah.
So okay, so let's do this. So first of all, anyone listening, I can see a few of you in here. Anyone listening, any of that related, obviously winning hundreds of thousands of dollars, probably not relatable to most people in this group. But any of those things we've just spoken about, relatable to you? If so, which ones? Let us know. Leave us a comment in the comments there. We'd love to hear from you. I've seen a few more new people joining as well, so that's cool. Okay, so let's do this. You said on average we lose 6 shots a round. Basically before even starting. So break that down for me. Like what do those 6 shots look like? You said you've done some research into this. Like what does that look like? And just break that down for us.
Yeah, we tried to look at that, and if that was the average that was coming out of the research that we did, we tried to think like, where is that happening? And like you said, you'll be losing shots really through your mental game before you even start. What I want to focus on really, which I think is a really easy way for people to understand the times that they can work on their mindset, but also the times at which it will then help you on the golf course, there's a sort of bigger level to this and there's a smaller level to this. So thinking first of all about the bigger level, you've got before your round of golf, the things that you do, practicing during the week, the night before, the morning of, driving to the golf course, your warm-up, etc. There are all things that you can do in those times to become more calm, confident, and focused. Then there's during your round of golf, that ideally it's, less than 4 hours that you're out there, but we all know it can quite often, particularly with medals and things, be a bit longer than that. What are the things that you're doing to help yourself stay more calm, confident, and focused? But it's also after the round of golf. If it's a great day or a shocking day, quite often you're driving home thinking about it, but it doesn't stop there the moment you get out of the car. You're going out for dinner with your friends or you're hanging out with your family. Like, you can be thinking about golf, and that can be very, very, what's the word? Like, toxic's not the right word, but it can become, it feeds and it fuels the obsession of golf, and an obsession which can control you. If you're, sat at home talking with people and you're thinking like, that 4th hole, like, how did I, like, you see what I mean?
You're describing me and my group of mates. You're
We
just,
don't want to be like that.
no,
The way I think about
but we finish. We go for a pint afterwards. We break down the round, and then drinks later on in the evening or whatever. We'll be like, "Yeah, that putt you made on 4 was really shit. You should have done better."
like, that's okay. I do think that I know this because all the golfers I talk to, but they get home and it's like, what's this Rick Shields video about this thing? And it can become a bit of a cycle where you really struggle to switch off from golf. And actually, like, you could say, well, I'm passionate about the game. I love it. I think about it a lot. But there's a type of passion called obsessive passion, which I've spent a bit of time learning about, where it is like, you're not in control of your passion for the game, and it does tip into becoming an obsession. And maybe that's not a problem for you, but for some people listening to this, they might be thinking that I spend way too much time thinking about trying to work out, obsessing over my golf, and I don't feel like it's always helping me once I get out to the course. So yeah, just in summary, it's the stuff you do before the round, it's the stuff during the round, and it's the stuff after the round too. Calm, confidence, focus. Like you can learn ways to achieve that state of mind at those times. Then what I want you to think about is just how you funnel that down into the sort of more micro level, which is just before each shot that you hit, actually during the shot and after the shot. And it's a real secret to golf. What can you do to be more calm, confident, and focused in those times? And once you start to look at your mental game through those sort of three pillars that I mentioned, you'll probably realize that perhaps all three, you're struggling with, or it's one more than the others. Investing a bit of effort, a bit of time into working at those things can have a huge impact, and just doing it at those times, it gives you a bit of a template, a bit of a way of understanding, like, I can do stuff before I head to the golf course. I could do a 10-minute visualization in our app, or a 10-minute meditation. That's going to really, really help me. It will save you shots, on average. Like, it's going to bring your scores down. It's just a small investment, but I think it's a clearer way of looking at, where can I work at my mental game? What am I looking to achieve? Calm, confidence, focus. And how does that relate to the shots that I hit? Feeling that way just before, during, and after the shot. Hope that makes sense.
For sure. So you've got, wait, I want to recap there because I think that's all very important. So, and I know that we've got some more things to dive into. So I love that, breaking it down into those 3 points, those 3 steps, the macro and then the micro. So the macro is, what can you do to work on your game before your round? So the night before, the morning of, driving to the course, warm up. And I know, like, I've totally been there. I know people in my group that have been there. I bet there's people listening now. So tell me if this is you, if you're listening, to put it in the comments and say this is you. We know people, you're cleaning your clubs the night before, you're researching the course, you're looking at the different holes, you're trying to figure out what your plan is, which is what we're told, like, yeah, you should do that. You should be looking at what your flow is. Then the morning of, you're getting up, you're getting ready to go, driving there, you're already getting, you're in your own head basically when you're on the drive there about what you're going to do. Then the warm-up comes and you shank a couple off. Okay, now I'm speaking from personal experience. You shank a couple in your warm-up, you go straight into your own head. And sometimes we always joke, like, a terrible warm-up will lead to a very good round, because you then always haven't gone out there with no expectations.
Yeah.
And when you have a great warm-up, well, it just leads to a disaster round. So that's before. Then you've got during the round, which is obviously, that's a 4-hour period of time. Like, that's quite a long time to be in your own head, as it were. And then after the round, and then in the micro, you've got, with each shot, you've got that routine of what you're doing immediately before the shot, what you're doing during, what you're thinking during, and what you're doing straight after that shot. So
Absolutely.
how do you want to do this? Because we originally planned to kind of dive into and talk about kind of the 3 main secrets for shooting lower scores. So we talked about making more putts when it matters, eliminating those first few nerves, how to find the elusive consistency. So do you want to kind of dive into each one of those, or do you want to dive into going into one of those macros or micros, or are they all kind of tying together?
I'll really quickly go into, suggest just a few things that can be done in those macro and micro times that I talked about. And to be honest, like, the 3 secrets thing, those will be things that are like this, that you can do. So let's spend a bit of time quickly first on that stuff. And then dive into the 3 secrets. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So give me some example, because I think when it comes to psychology, I still think there's a bit of a barrier around it. And I actually love what Golf Guru, what your app has done, is it makes it super accessible and it makes it super easy, because there is a bit of a barrier in terms of, what is it like? Even like, I enjoy mindfulness, meditation, things like that, but it's still something that I don't talk about a huge amount with people, because everyone's a bit like, sorry, you do meditation? What are you sitting there going, and I'm like, I'm not, but, I can see why you might think that. So I think there's always going to be this barrier, and your app is very, very good at removing that barrier. So can you, like, talk us through it? What does it mean when you're saying, what do you do, a visualization before the round? What is that? Like, what are we talking about?
Okay. Yeah. You're right. You can't measure what's going on with the mind as well as you can other parts of the game. And that tends to be why it kind of plays, like, second or third, even third fiddle to those, like, parts of the game, the physical and the technical. So what is it? A really simple way to think about it is, how can you get your mind to be a tool at your disposal that's actually going to help you, rather than something that's just going to run around doing whatever hell it wants, negatively impacting your performance, being unhelpful with the
Yeah.
types of thoughts that it throws up or what it chooses to focus on or think about at any given moment. So it's as simple as that.
Great. So let's dive into some of those things. I'm going to let you lead the way. Where do you want to go to first?
Yeah. So let me talk about, like, before around, you know, again, people listening to this, it's totally up to you. I'm never gonna say you have to do this stuff to shoot lower scores, because, like, there are going to be times when you have a round, you've got a competition around on Saturday, and we all lead busy lives, right? You've got something going on Friday night, work-wise, socially. Like, you can't, sit down and meditate or do a visualization on your Friday night. But there might be times that you do. So let's just talk about the kinds of things that you can do. The way that you practice is a huge one. The way you use the driving range. If you're someone who goes, once a week, once every other week, even more than that, most people end up spending a lot of their time on technique and kind of what I call machine gunning golf balls. And if you want to think about an easy way before a round of golf, in the work you do before you get to the golf course to help you play better golf, it can be changing the way that you practice. Not totally, but just including some performance-based stuff, some stuff to simulate the pressure that you experience on the golf course. In an ideal world, to be honest, what you should simulate pressure-wise when you're practicing would be greater than what you experience when you get to the course. So if you think about it that way, if you can, let's say you hit 50, 100 balls on a Wednesday night, and you've got a big competition coming up on the Saturday, don't spend 100% of your time thinking about your technique, filming your swing, working on that thing that your PGA pro has told you to do, kind of adapting that to a slightly different swing thought. That tends to not work for people. It's too hard to take that to the golf course. It takes a lot of discipline to do this, but I really recommend, condense that time that you spend thinking about technique to 50, maybe like 60, 65% of the time that you spend hitting balls at the range. And that final bit has to be spent simulating pressure, making yourself accountable on the range. That's the big thing that all the top golfers talk about, all the performance psychologists, sports golf psychologists. They all, they know the driving range, you have to make yourself accountable there, because you don't get the luxury of a second attempt on the golf course. So why give yourself that on the driving range when you're practicing, trying to get ready for the weekend? So
So,
that,
so what does that mean when you say? So, what does that look like? So, I'm on the range and I've done my technical stuff and I want to get that out of the way. So, I've done the technical stuff and I haven't gone down a deep dark hole of starting to Google Rick Shields, Peter Finch videos on the range and trying to figure out what's going wrong.
yeah.
I've done the technique stuff, and now I'm going right. I want to simulate pressure. So, how do I do that? How do I simulate pressure on the range?
you know, lots of ranges have the technology right now to actually play golf. That it can be as simple as that, and therefore you're actually just smash a tee shot, and then smash the next one. Try to simulate the process, and that's the pre-shot routine that you're going to use when you're actually playing at the weekend. And do not allow yourself, if you hit a bad shot, and you can replay that one on the TrackMan or whatever, like, do not do that. Be disciplined.
Don't take the mulligan.
No, you can't. You can't. Like, you can, but I can guarantee that you're missing an opportunity to become mentally tougher, and that
Cool.
is something that we all want. So it won't always go perfectly, but the more you do that, the more you change that kind of habit, it has a huge compounding impact over time. It just does. So that would be my advice. If you don't have that kind of range, imagine the course that you're going to be playing at the weekend, or your home course, or place well. Play that. You're changing club every single time. You have to accept the outcome. If you are standing on the range and you flare a drive, you have to be the way I always think about it is bigger than it makes you feel. In that moment, you go, oh, I can do better than that. I'm going to hit another driver. You can't do that. You can't do it on the course. So why practice it? You know, you would have to deal with it on the course. So let's simulate that. And that will help you. That makes you mentally tougher, um, saves you shots.
Got
Simple
it.
as that kind of stuff.
So I'm on Top Tracer. I'm playing a course. Number one rule: don't take the mulligan.
Yeah, there you go. Simple as that. Don't give
You're
yourself
missing an opportunity. I love it. You're missing an opportunity to become mentally tougher. Don't be that person that.
absolutely.
I love that. Okay, great. So simulate pressure as much as you can. Add as much pressure to your practice. So I love that. What else?
You cannot get enough. You can't get enough pressure in practice, you know.
And
Just
is that like, so again, putting pressure in, is it like going with a mate to the range and having little competitions with your mate at the range? That's similar
great
to.
thing to do. Great thing to do. Yeah, you know. And but again, you know, if you're practicing with your mate, are you both going to go through your pre-shot routine in the way that you would when you're playing on, you know, that can be fun and it can definitely simulate some pressure, but there's also a really good opportunity just in focusing for that final like chunk of your time at the range and just kind of being there fully present, like imagining, like simulating what's going to happen in the round at the weekend, which is you only get one opportunity to play every single shot.
Yeah.
So let's do that on the range, and you trust that doing that will help you when you get to the golf course because you've just practiced in a real way.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Nice. So that's one of the things that we can do. That's really before the round. You
yeah.
mentioned sort of driving on the way there. Like, what are we doing on the way there that can help?
Yeah, I mean, huge plug for the Golf Guru app because I mean it's that was one of the things in our early testing. Loads of people were listening to our guided meditations while driving to the golf course, and that is not the time to be meditating at all or listening to anything that's encouraging you to really like relax. So we created some sessions that are specifically designed to get you mentally prepared for the round, you know, and to get you inspired as well and excited, you know, to I've experienced this driving to the golf course, particularly if you're on your own, you might be like, oh God, you know, thinking about this, that, and the other. It can become a really difficult time. And the sessions that we have in the app, they are called Drive Time, and they are interviews essentially with, you know, well-known sports psychologists, people who are working with the top players in the game, like Dr. Brett McCabe, Dr. Joe Parent.
I was going to say, I can't believe we haven't mentioned it. So, because we've talked about Zen Golf on the podcast like maybe a year ago, or maybe even longer.
Nice.
And the three of us read the book and listened to the book. And so, everyone listening now, Dr. Joseph Parent is a big part of Golf Guru, a big part of the app. You guys have a good relationship with him, don't you?
Yeah, he's become like a mentor to me. You know, he's had this crazy career in the game. His book continues to sell a lot of copies. It's still super relevant, but like luckily for us, he sees a lot of potential in the way that we're delivering content because, you know, reading a book, that's great, but you know, you can't take that to the driving range.
The implementation of it is always a bit weak.
Yeah, you know, whereas with our app, you can plug your headphones in on the driving range and be guided. Actually, that's a good point. The process that I just talked about, the pressure practice, you know, if you're struggling to focus, put your headphones in and listen to our app because it will guide you. It's like having one of these performance psychologists there, actually calling the shots that you need to hit. So you really don't need to concentrate as much. Like you just get really in like focused in the session and it's really effective. But these sessions I'm talking about, drive time, they're like 30-40 minute chats talking about the ideal mindset for great golf. And there are people, like I said, some of these top psychologists, you know, Dr. Joe Parent's worked with like a bunch of Hall of Famers, people who've won, like Julie Inkster, she won 7 majors. Vijay Singh, he started working with Vijay just before he ended up kicking Tiger off the #1 in the world spot. Who else is on there? Yeah, Brett McCabe. He's worked with John Rahm. I don't think he's working with him right now. Sam Burns, a bunch of other tour players. And then like Matt Wallace. I mean, that was fascinating hearing him. He came on and talked about just was so open about the mental side of the game. And they can get you really, really excited and inspired for the upcoming round and give you some really positive thoughts to head to the first tee with.
Okay, so I think we've I mean, I'm sure there is a ton more that we can do pre-round, but I think that's 1, 2 nice little things that people can
That's
easily do.
enough.
That's
Yeah.
enough. That's enough. Let's not overwhelm me, basically.
Right.
Then let's do during the round and after the round. What can
Yeah,
we do?
I'll keep these really short, because yeah, I just keep them short. During a round, staying calm, confident, and focused, you can do that a number of different ways. Um, a really, really accessible, easy way to do that, I would say, is using your breathing as you walk in between shots. Not many people know that Nick Faldo was sort of the first person to do this, and Tiger Woods was the second, and those two, obviously, pretty dominant players in their times. They
Mhm.
would use their breathing in between shots, kind of like a secret weapon to regulate themselves and ensure that they got to the next shot feeling a certain way. Other golfers weren't doing that, and it can be your secret weapon. Playing in competitions, stressful situations.
And
Learn.
what do you mean? Because we're all obviously breathing in between shots. So what do you mean, like being conscious of what does that mean?
It's a particular type of breathing that you can do to just kind of, Brooks talked about this at the weekend. He gets excited. He wants to get on with it. He wants to hit the next shot. He likes playing fast, but he knows that can just tip him out of being excited slightly above that into being more stressed and anxious. And he just wants to regulate himself to this sort of place of being excited, which he knows is his ideal place for playing great golf. Like that's one thing that not many people know, that the level for playing your best golf is just below being stressed. It is being a little bit amped up and a little bit excited. Like it kind of feels a little bit, like you're experiencing nerves and there's a little bit of anxiety there. But yeah, it's just below being stressed is actually your level for peak performance. So the way that you use your breathing in between shots, that 1 minute walk to your golf ball, can really, really help you, you know, um, to be more level, to be more grounded, to be more present when you get to that shot, and therefore to increase the chance of you getting the outcome that you want from that shot.
Love it. Okay, so focusing on the breath, and
After
then
the round, really quickly,
and there you go.
we've got an amazing session in the app called Deep Relaxation. You could uh, 10 minutes, lie back when you get home, listen to this. Again, it's guided breathing, with some really, really nice sounds. It helps you totally switch off and leave the round behind. Another one I'll just plug is journaling. And that's another thing we have in the app. Write down your 4 best shots and never not do this. No matter how bad your round was, always focus on the best shots that you hit. The best tee shot, the best approach shot, the best chip or pitch, and the best putt. And just always write those down. It is crazy what that does for your mindset, for you to become more positive and more confident over time. That's one you can do after the round as well.
And why does that work? Just because it builds up a bank of like positive thoughts of when we, hey, I remember I can hit this shot. I know I can hit this
It's
shot.
feeding your subconscious. You're taking the time to, like writing stuff down, it's really powerful, but you're taking the time to commit to memory some positive vibes of the best shots you hit, rather than letting the bad ones fester for the few hours after your round of golf, and then you just forget about it and you move on. You've actually kind of committed these to memory. It's a bit like self-talk. It's what you're feeding your subconscious, the images and the language that you're using, that you put down on paper. They're going to have an impact, but it's also the compounding impact over time. You've got to keep that. I personally, I've been doing it for 4 or 5 years now, since I got back into the game. I've got 2 huge notebooks of it, and it's just so powerful. And if you can do it as well from the perspective of what did I do that influenced the outcome of that shot, rather than just hold a 25-footer right to left up the hill for birdie, fantastic. I took my time to read the putt. I had a really clear image. I stuck to my routine despite feeling a little bit nervous. The putt tracked exactly the way that I wanted, dropped in the hole, my playing partner said, well done, like that. And then that's something you can always refer back to. You know, going back through these notebooks is so cool when you can see all the great shots that you've hit. I've been talking to some golfers, it's been life-changing for them to do that.
I love that. I hadn't actually. That's something that I haven't thought of, hadn't implemented, and I like that a lot. That's really cool. Okay, awesome. So we've got a pre-round, we've got a during round, we've got an after round. Do you want to go into the micro and just go through that routine?
Really quickly, really
But it
quickly.
doesn't have to be really quick. Like, people
Yeah.
will love this, so don't rush it. People will absolutely love this. So let's dive into it.
Yeah, I want to get to those 3 secrets. I know people will be wanting to discuss.
I think we're covering those, so don't worry about
Okay,
that.
cool.
That's fine.
Like before each shot, you know, your pre-shot routine at the end of the day, having a pre-shot routine. Pre-shot routines were first researched in basketball, I think back in the 80s or 90s, for free throw shooters, and it was proven to, you know, benefit their performance. And shooting free throws is a lot like golf. It's you're standing there, technically everything's static, you know, the target's not moving. Yeah, having something you consistently do before you attempt a golf shot that's familiar to you, that's comforting, the power of that cannot be overstated, you know, for helping you to hit more good shots consistently. But also, what is the point of a pre-shot routine? I think a lot of people get this confused. They think that a pre-shot routine is kind of to practice swings and, you know, sort of, okay, line up with something in, like, you know, intermediate target, and, you know, step in and pull the trigger. A pre-shot routine is only working if it gets your mind in the right place in those final sort of 2 seconds before you start your swing, but then also throughout the swing too. So it's as much of a physical process, but I would argue the mental side is more important because of those last second doubts that can creep in, or those feelings during a swing of like, oh God, you know, the stuff that you do just before the shot, that then it's almost like plugging in these things that then help you once you get over the ball. And, you know, when I say during each shot, knowing where your mind should be actually as you make your swing is so important. And again,
Right. Okay. So where should my mind be making? Because
that's a whole other rabbit hole, which probably we
okay,
don't have time for, but I will quickly. There are 3 places that your mind arguably should be. Really quickly, 1 swing thought, if that works for you. More is probably not the best.
okay.
Totally empty. You know, you talk a lot about golfers blacking out. Ricky Fowler talked about it a lot when putting. Tiger talked about it a lot in his career. And I've experimented with this. If you can black out, if you can, okay, this probably works a little bit better for better players, but if you can remove your mind from the equation and just trust your body to do what it can do, which is hit a good shot, it probably will do that, but probably will become more robotic. So that's one way to think about it. The other, which if there's any people who are, you know, fans of rugby, they'll know, like, you know, some of the great goal kickers, being focused on a tiny target, even if you're making up that target, is another really powerful one.
Just because it allows our body to go. Like, our bodies know how to get an object to a target. Like, we're pretty good at, like, we're trained that. I don't think about how to throw a ball. I just throw the ball.
Exactly.
And I get over a shot, and I'm like, okay, so take it back this way, put it to here, turn the wrist. Like, I've got hundreds of swing thoughts going through my mind. So I know that's definitely an issue. And I know lots, especially new or relatively new golfers who are learning, who you've been to for a lesson, and they've been, you know, they're trying to take that lesson and apply it on the course. You are thinking about the 17 different things that you're trying to work on. So I guess it's kind of just going, look, your swing is where it is right now, and just trust what you've got and go for it.
Yeah, you know, Jordan Spieth has an image of his tiny target as he's swinging. If anyone knows who Johnny Wilkinson is, you know,
I'm sure they will.
Hopefully they he used to do this. He was taught to do this crazy thing when he was lining up kicks. He would picture someone in the crowd. He would make all of this up in his mind, but this is what he focused on as he was kicking. Picture someone in the crowd with a newspaper like this. He would zoom in on an article of the newspaper, then a particular paragraph, and a particular word, and then a particular letter. And that was his target. Like, how mad is that? That principle, it just allowed him to totally remove any other thoughts and just focus on that while kicking, and his body just does the rest.
Mm.
And that's what I mean. Okay, it's definitely something that can help better players a bit more. Like Dave Allwood was the guy that taught Johnny Wilkinson that. He taught that same thing to Luke Donald and to Francesco Molinari, and they both became seriously good golfers.
Yeah.
Back in the day. Okay, they're not as much now. Maybe they need to go back and do that. I don't know. But I was teaching a guy who here in person who has the yips, short game yips, chipping yips. The principle that worked for him was putting a tee in the ground, and he just tries to land the ball on the tee, and he's doing that from inside 40 yards where he tends to yip, but it's more so on shots of between 10 and 20 yards. Just focus on the tee. Just try and land the ball on the tee. The more you do that, the more everything else just goes away.
Takes care of itself.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, nice. So that's during, and I think if you're loving this, by the way, if you're listening, James is more than happy. I'm telling you this. James is going to come back on at some point in the future, and we can dive into specifically more detail on like that part of that shot, that specific area. So that's cool. So let us know if you're enjoying it. But just what final part after the shot? What am I doing?
What I love is the post-shot routine that I remember hearing that Colin Morikawa uses. A lot of us hit a bad shot and we get very emotional and we're like, maybe you take it out on the club, whatever. That's fine, get it out, but then there's a sort of sweet spot for becoming a better golfer, which I just think Morikawa was the best player to describe it. And it is remove the emotion from the outcome of the shot that you just hit and simply ask yourself, why did the ball go there? And if you can do that on the bad shots, the okay shots and the good shots, you start to notice things. Whereas if you're emotional and you kind of tilting a little bit, you won't. And what you do is you rationally review, okay, well, you know what? I actually totally missed that putt, but I hit it the way I wanted. Like, so you know what? It was just my read that was wrong, rather than getting pissed off about the fact that you missed the putt. Maybe you hook one left into the trees off the tee and you go, you know what? Like, my mind was just all over the place saying, don't go right, don't go right, don't go right, that I decided to try and keep it left. But again, if you were just annoyed about it going left, you wouldn't be able to step back and see that. So there's this, remove the emotion, ask yourself, why did the ball go there? Even if you pipe it down the middle, why did the ball go there? Okay, well, my swing felt really, really smooth. My pre-shot routine was great. I don't know, everything just felt awesome. That's a really nice little sort of post-shot routine, if you like. That you'll start to develop trends, and it can work during a round of golf. So, on the first few holes, you might hit some crappy shots. Rather than getting annoyed, you go, I'm not fully committed to these shots, or, I know that when I visualize them, I get better outcomes, but I'm not visualizing. I'm feeling a bit rushed or something. And you just, then you change that, and that gives you the opportunity to start playing better. And if you're hitting great shots and you realize why, you just try and do more of those things. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
It does. Good. So let's do. I'm loving this, by the way, and I could geek out on this all night. And I'm very aware of your time and making sure that we stick to that. So just do one of the pick between which do you see as more of a problem? People not being able to make putts in under pressure, or people with first tee nerves. Which one do you want to talk about? Just pick one.
Yeah, I want to focus on the putts. I think it's more fun.
More personal as well for you, maybe.
Yeah, to be honest, I get first tee nerves. I really do. Even when I'm playing on my own, sometimes, get a few holes, like it's just there. You just want to hit the first tee shot good. We all have it, but at the end of the day, it's as much as just double down on your pre-shot routine, the processes that you have, and accept the outcome before you hit it, and that you'll learn from it. And if it goes well, fantastic. If it doesn't, let's rationally review that, like I just said, to the point where I can work out things that I did that I don't want to do next time, and that gives me a better opportunity of hitting a shot. One really good point I'm just going to make. I'm sure most people know the book "Golf is Not a Game of Perfect" by Dr. Bob Rotella. It's kind of known as like the mental game Bible.
It's up there.
Yeah, yeah, with Zen Golf, I would argue.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time thinking, if golf is not a game of perfect, what is it? And for me, it's a game of probability. And that is so related to the mental game. If you can do certain things, you don't guarantee that you will hit good shots, but you will increase the probability that of you hitting good shots. And reduce the negative impact of your bad ones. They're not likely to be as bad, but you will still hit terrible shots and you will still hit great shots, but it's just hitting less of the terrible ones, more of the great ones. But the putting thing, there's a mental sweet spot for putting, which is believing you can hold it, but not caring if you miss. Does that make sense?
It does, but how do I not care if it misses?
You just like you have to have this attitude of, I don't care if I make this putt. Like it doesn't, even if it's a 3-footer on the first, right? Or it's snaking downhill left to right or on the last to win your club championship, you've always got to not care if you make it, because that's the sweet spot. That's when you get out of your own way and you just hit putts totally carefree, kind of like you are at those times when you're just out on the putting green and you just start making everything or whatever. Like you have to not care. I'll be honest, I don't fully know why that is, but it's something I've talked to a lot of people about. You believe you can, because if you don't believe that you can hold a putt, like we rarely do. But if you can plug those two things in just before you stroke the putt, I believe I can hold this, but I don't care if I miss. It is scary, the things that start to happen when you start to then pull the trigger. That's what making more putts when it matters. You have to care less. You have to have this carefree attitude.
So I don't know if anybody who's listening who is involved in the world of sales, but I do. So my outside of this, the day job is marketing and sales. And one of the big things whenever we talk with sales teams is if you need to make a sale, I guarantee you won't make that sale.
Right. Yeah. That's really interesting.
So it's always done. If someone is like desperate to make a sale, they'll never make it. And the person who's already made a ton and doesn't need to make any more sales will close that sale without even trying. It'll be a breeze for them. They'll be like, I didn't even try, I just sold it. Like, so if you have that pressure of I have to make this sale, you're not making it. And so
it's really, even that's got me thinking, I'm going back to like, again, working in music, navigating promotions, like, discussions about stuff. I always tended to get much more of what I wanted when I was willing, basically,
to walk away.
Yeah, exactly. But that's really fascinating. I can see the total connection. That's good. That's what I'm saying, right? If you need to hold this putt, I would say that then relates to something that Dr. Joe Parent has talked to me a lot about, which is that you tend to, when you're putting, either try to help the ball like towards where you want it to go, or try to avoid a certain outcome, right? And the sweet spot is just letting it go. You're not trying to guide the putt to where you need it to go, and you're not trying to avoid missing, particularly on the shorter ones, or avoid a 3-putt. The sweet spot is definitely that carefree attitude. And that's what it comes down to. Like, I don't care if I miss this, no matter what the stakes. I'm not saying it's easy to do, but
no, I'm writing it down because I want this to be like a thing that I come back to and go, right.
I'm gonna, like in the app, we have a session called Make More Putts,
Oh,
and
nice. Okay,
it
great.
teaches this mental process called TBA, and it's something that you do before every single putt. You know, right at the last minute, you're standing over the ball. T for target. You know, what's my target? B for belief. Like, I believe I can hold this putt. Otherwise, what's the point of me trying this? You know,
Yeah.
and like, you know, what's the longest putt you've ever, like, you've holed putts of 20 feet, 5 feet. Yeah, yeah, you can, right? Everyone can. And then the final part is A, but I don't care if I miss. And then you hit it. And we guide you actually. So what you do is you put your headphones in. Next time you're at the practice green, it's 12 minutes, I think, this session, and you actually hit putts as you sort of go through that process. The reason why I think TBA is really powerful is if we think about what that stands for kind of in day-to-day life, like to be announced, right? You can do all those things. It's to be announced whether the putt will go in, because it might hit a bit of grass and it might go offline and it might do this and you might have read it wrong. But that's all you can control. What's my target? Do I believe I can hold this? And do I care whether I make or miss this putt? Try that session. I mean, like,
I love it.
yeah,
I love it. I'm immediately going to go and download that one and save that one to my ones to do. So, before everyone sort of disappears off, before I let you go, and by the way, there will be loads of people that come back and listen to this later on. So, what I want to do is, first of all, thank you very much for coming and joining and doing this. And so, first of all, you've given us an awesome special offer for Sunday Red members, which normally you guys do a 7-day free trial of the app, but for Sunday Red members, you guys can all get a 30-day free trial.
Yeah.
So definitely go and check that out. I'm going to put a little QR code up here, which if you're on your phone, obviously that makes it a little bit difficult, but if you're not, just scan that or just search Golf Guru on the App Store. I'm assuming, James.
Search Golf Guru app is normally the easiest way to find it. It just comes straight up. You know, there's the green logo there with a little golfing Buddha.
Yeah, I did on there here. So, and this is what it looks like. I don't know if you'll be able to see that, but this is what it looks like on the inside. It's not in focus, is it? I'm not going to be able to get that in focus. But there's all kinds of different programs to go through, all different things to work on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm as soon as I saw this, I was so excited because I think you've got in the golf psychology world, you've got the book, which I agree is the Zen Golf's the golf is not a game of perfect. It's actually just really difficult to actually then go and implement. Like it is. Like it's tricky to go and do that.
Dr. Bob Rotella admitted that to me. Like
and then, so by the way, you can scan this app up here, everybody. Scan that QR code wherever it's appearing up there, and you'll be able to go and get the app straight there. The code. What's the code? Hang on, let me put this code in the comments so that we can do that. Let me pull that up.
It's Sunday Red _1MF, I think.
Oh, he's already got it there.
No, yeah, because you don't want to forget the _1MF.
You do not want to forget the underscore. Let me grab it. And then so that's 30-day free trial. And then while I'm getting the code, tell us about, because you got a very cool little extra giveaway that we're going to do. So give us the little giveaway.
Yeah, you know, really, really excited for people to try out the app. You know, we're still new, but you know, there's quite a few thousand golfers using it now from all over the world, and some ridiculously powerful user stories. Like, yeah, you know, people who on the verge of quitting the game, who've got back into it. Things as well, crazy handicap reductions. Like the lowest that we've seen to date is down from 16 to 5 in just under a year, from a guy in Northern Ireland, which is nuts.
That is nuts.
Yeah, and that's just changing mental approach. Like, if anything, he was having some swing lessons at the same time, but he said they weren't helping him. He was thinking about it too much. So anyway, yeah, dive into the app. There's just under 30 hours at the moment of guided audio content. It probably will be over 30 by the end of this week, to be honest. I've got lots more new sessions to upload from Dr. Joe Parent and from a breathwork specialist we've been working with. Get stuck into it. What we're going to do is you download the app, you use this unique code on the payment page where we have the options for monthly or annual. There's a redeem code button, and if you put the code in there, hit submit, it will take you straight through to the kind of premium version of the app where all of the content is there on offer for you. When you do that, you will automatically be entered into a kind of giveaway, into a sort of prize draw that we're doing. We're going to select a couple of golfers to come and play the Berkshire Golf Club. I don't know if you guys know that, with me and Chris.
It's a top 100 course in the UK. I mean, in fact, there's 2 top 100 golf courses there,
Yeah,
right? I think in the UK. So
yeah,
as soon as you suggested this, I was like, well, obviously I'm coming. So there's me, you,
yeah,
and then two randomly selected. I'll add anyone who signs up for the free trial using that code. I'll put it in the in the comments, and I'll also do an email out to make sure everyone's got it as well.
yeah, exactly. Stunning golf course, and will be just great to meet a couple of people who've got onto the app, and we can chat about it all more there, and yeah, it'd be great to do that.
We'll do that. And I'm going to put a deadline of it, and I'm actually going to give people a week to watch the video and to start their trial stage. By the end of this month, at the beginning of next month, we'll pick the 2 winners who are going to come and join us for a round at the Berkshire, which I think will just be. I'm so excited. I'm really excited, guys. I absolutely, and James, I absolutely love this app. I know I've told you that off air before, but it's so nice to see just a great piece of tech and a great piece coming through in the golf psychology world. I think that's going to be huge. And by the way, but we didn't even mention it. If beyond the trial, if people want to continue, it's peanut. How much are we talking?
It's $9.99 a month. We tested that with a lot of people, to be honest, and like that was the feedback. It was the right amount. $59.99 for the year. So there's a significant discount there. It can take you well into next golf season now if you opt to do that. I would think about it that you're going to save some golf balls.
Yeah, so I know. I agree. No, James, a tenner a month and much cheaper if you do it for the annual, I think is an absolute steal. And the reason I say that is because up until now, it's either been get the book and don't implement, or it's been work with a golf psychologist, which, let's be honest, is out of reach for 98% of us, because we're happy to spend money on our equipment, we're happy to spend money on practice, but this hasn't quite reached that, oh yeah, I'm willing to give a psychologist this or whatever. So there hasn't been that way that we can access this in a way.
Yeah.
And you put it together beautifully. Honestly, it's great.
Think about it as this, like, whenever you might need a bit of help with your mental game, it's going to be there in your pocket for you to use. You can use it even on the golf course. There are sessions that you can do on the golf course, but you'll find your way of using the app best, in those times I talked about, and it's going to save you a lot of shots, in the coming weeks, months, and years. So the one thing I will just say is I think the code that we've posted is spelt wrong. So it'll be Sunday Red rather than Sunday Red, right?
My bad. I've changed it.
Yeah, all good.
Let me try that again. Hopefully that went through. I'll post it again in a minute anyway, just to make sure. Yeah, so that's updated there, and I'll update it on this one. Let me just copy that across. James, thank you so much for coming and joining us. I really, really appreciate it. I'm sure everyone else, if you're watching this, even if you're watching it back at a later time, hit that like button. Let us know that you've enjoyed it. Leave James a comment. Say thank you.
I'm gonna plug our Instagram as well. We're still growing. We're just over, I think, 1,100 or something now, but would love you guys to come and check that out. Posting some mental game tips on there, and just good vibes, like related to the game. And
so where's that? What's the
Golf Guru app?
Just Golf Guru app. Okay, cool. I'm going to find it, and then again I'll put that here.
Nice one.
Golf Guru. Love it. Yeah, I was blown away as soon as I saw it. I was like, got Dr. Joe Parent in here. You've got all these guided meditations, which I'm a big fan of. Anyway, and for me, it's a consistency thing, right? So for me, it's not about just doing it one time. It's been about, okay, how many times throughout the week can I plug this in? Where can I plug this in? Because all joking aside, like, I'm a big fan of this space anyway. And doing this, I believe, will not only just impact your golf game, but I believe it'll impact other areas of your life as well by taking this time in these moments. So, guys,
maybe that's kind of the closing thing. Like, there's definitely some benefits there. One of the guys that spoke to really early on, he was using some of the things that he'd learned at work in stressful situations. There are people whose Whoop recovery scores have gone up from different sessions that they're listening to. Like, there's definitely some overall well-being benefits related to this stuff too. But
I haven't shown these off yet, by the way. I should have had this guy up nice and close for today's topic. We got Happy Gilmore here behind me. Feel like he's very relevant to a golf mindset conversation. John, just so Stephen says thank you. John says cheers. So, guys, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. If you've been here live, I appreciate everyone who's watching back at a later time. Thank you, James. Thank you very much, and everybody. We will see you later. Go download the app, Golf Guru. Sign up for the 30-day free trial. The code is in the comments. Go get it. See you later.
Yeah.